I'm a sea king, a CGI thing. I'm here to eat and bare my teeth and shake a tail fin. A bikini babe, catching a road wave. A big surprise, I'm gonna rise and flash my tooth cane. All the buff dudes, safe on the beach food. They're gonna need a bigger boat and barrels real soon. I'm a sea king, a CGI thing. I'm here to eat and bare my teeth and shake a tail fin. I'm only taking a ride. Lured in by your bucket of chum. It's one weakness I can't hide. Take me to your bucket of chum.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Bucket of Chum, the Shark Movie Podcast. And this is just a little bonus episode I wanted to do, and it's just a year in review. 1 year of Bucket of Chum, January 4th. The first episode of 2024 comes out. It'll be about 2 days after the 1 year anniversary of the first episode. So I was just sitting on the couch thinking about this, and I was like, man, it's been quite a year. So yeah, I thought I'd just kind of talk about the year, talk about the podcast, what's going on, maybe some plans for the future, and maybe do some shout outs and shit like that. Just a very casual episode. So, I mean, if that's not your cup of tea, then hey, that's cool. You don't got to listen. Tune in to some of the other episodes. Yeah, so what a year this has been. So as I said, the first episode was released, I believe it was January 4th or January 6th, 2022, or 2023, sorry. I came up with the podcast in like October 2022 or November 2022 after I'd lost my job. And I've mentioned it on the podcast before, and I've definitely mentioned it in the introduction episode, but I have depression and anxiety and God knows what else or what other fucking mental illnesses I have. So sometimes doing this shit is kind of a challenge for me, but I'm so happy and impressed that I've been able to keep up with this for an entire year and really build something out of it. And I'm just hoping to keep this going. So yeah, this thing is just like Bucket of Chum's not going anywhere. This is a very positive episode, I think. Yeah, I think the future is looking bright for me right now for this podcast, at least. There has been a lot of ups and downs, but honestly, it's nothing crazier than any other podcaster has gone through. We all lose episodes. We all, have bad recordings for whatever reason, technical difficulties, you name it. Trying to get on a podcast and guest canceling and all that kind of stuff. Most of my challenges for the podcast have mostly come from stuff dealing with my personal life. Everything else has been pretty good for the most part. As far as like going on to other people's podcasts and whatnot, like I've never really had much of an issue as far as like scheduling and things like that. It's been a pretty positive experience overall. So I'm going to give a shout out to just some of the people, to some of the podcasts that I've been on this year. Bucket of Chum is going to have guests starting in 2024. I didn't want to do it this year because I wanted to wait until I was more comfortable with editing and things like that. And I wanted to get into a place where I'm like far enough ahead recording that, if I run into problems or it takes me a little while longer to do like a guest episode, then it's not that big of a deal. But in the first year alone, I've been on 11 or 12 other podcasts, one of them even a couple of times, which is just incredible to me. Like, considering I haven't really been around that long, it's honestly heartwarming to just see how many people wanted me as a guest. More or less everybody on this list, except for maybe one or two, they approached me to be on their podcast. As I said, it's just incredible. And I am so grateful to be able to make friends with these people and, just talk shit about movies and having the opportunity to talk about my podcast and get the word out and whatnot. And, which is why on the main feed, you hear a lot of trailers in my episodes. I usually have 2 at the beginning and 2 at the end. I like to do this because I think it's really important to support each other as podcasters. And, a simple thing like leaving a review, leaving a rating, putting a trailer in an episode, you might not think you're doing much because you're not giving them money like through a Patreon or other subscription service or something like that. But doing those small things gets the show into way more ears than you would think. So yeah, anytime you have the opportunity to just like rate a show, listen to the trailer or something, like just do it. It's free for you to do. It doesn't cost you anything except a little bit of time. I like to keep the promos that I put in mine like to a minute to 30 seconds, somewhere around there. Anyways, I'm fucking rambling. I was supposed to be talking about other podcasters that I've been with. So yeah, I'm going to list off all the other podcasts that I've been on this year. And I don't know if I'm going to be too lazy and not have links in the description of this episode. But if you go to bucketofchumpodcast.com, my website, you can absolutely find every episode that I have ever appeared on. I have a link down to the exact episode that I am on. But yeah, we'll just start with like the most recent, kind of work our way down. I'm just going to like rapid fire through this fairly quickly. Bad movies, worst people. I've been on here twice. So yeah, actually by the time this episode comes out, Santa Jaws will be out. We had a really good time talking about that movie. And previously I was on talking about Night of the Sharks in October, I believe it was, because Treat Williams had passed away. So Bad Movies, Worst People. We're doing a Trick or Treat Williams month for October. So that was pretty cool. And then recently I was on a podcast with Jeremy Bryant, who has a paranormal podcast, but we were doing a shark movie bracket. That one you can find over on their Facebook page. So you'd have to follow me on Facebook for that one, just for the specifics. But yeah, so we just did a shark movie bracket. So that was pretty cool. Creepy Crap Podcast, my Danny boy, good buddy. We had a lot of fun talking about 2012's Bait, an Australian movie. Awesome guy from Australia. Really funny guy. I highly recommend. I recommend listening to all of these podcasts. I'm not just going to say it just for one or two. Absolutely listen to all of these. I still listen to like episodes here and there. I don't listen to like every single episode just because it's a lot of podcasts. I just don't have that kind of time. But I do still listen to episodes here and there from everybody that I've guested on because I am genuinely a fan of their shows. I like some of the things that they talk about. And then before that, I was on the Horrorcraft podcast with Cassandra Lee, who is also a patron. Thank you so much, Cassandra. And we talked about Sharkula as a part of their Vampire Month, which I believe was September 2022. I'm not even looking at any dates. I'm just trying to go off memory here. So I don't know how well that's going to fucking go. And then previously in, I want to say it was like July or August, Bummer House. So these guys are great. They basically just do all of Blumhouse's filmography or films that are like within 6 degrees of Blumhouse. They do that too, which is awesome. We actually watched a movie from 2018 or 2019 called Sweetheart, which was like an aquatic horror movie that I knew nothing about, didn't even really know it was an aquatic horror. But yeah, this became one of my favorite movies to watch this year, now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, that was a really good time. So yeah, again, check them out. Check everybody out. And the time before that, which I think was July, I was on The Center Cut, where we talked about Sharknado. The Center Cut's a great podcast. Unfortunately, they seem to have stopped for now. But I highly encourage anybody to go and listen to them, and hopefully we can get them back. Let's get their numbers, back up. Maybe if they see people start listening, they'll come back, because I think they have a really great show. Their concept's really cool. They watch the first and last 15 minutes of a movie. They have a guest come on and quiz them about like the middle half, having not seen it at all. They're so funny. The whole experience was just awesome. I had so much fun on that episode too. It was really great. Previously, I was on Stephen Gervais and Friends podcast, and we just did kind of a short episode. We kind of just talked our like top 5 favorite shark movies. And I'll get into my top shark movies in a bit, not like a set in stone sort of list, but I'll talk about that in a second. And then previously, I was on Super Scary podcast, and Joshua from Super Scary was probably one of the first people that contacted me. I'm not even sure that I had an episode released yet, and he invited me on the show. So I was so grateful for that. Just being a new podcaster and starting, and then, somebody being like, hey, yeah, that sounds so cool. You want to come on the show? So yeah, he's definitely going to be on the show in 2024. We're going to make that happen. And then before that, I was on the Nightmares podcast from the Midwest Horror Network. This is another podcast that has also stopped, but they are coming back with another podcast in 2024. I think they just parted ways with Midwest Horror Network, maybe. And so they're still going to be doing like a podcast and like interviewing other podcasters and filmmakers and that sort of thing. And we just talked about like my podcast and shark movies in general and just horror in general. Really great conversation. It's up on YouTube as well, so there is a video version. And again, bucketofchumpodcast.com. You can find links to all of these episodes. And then before that, I was on a podcast called Mass Debaters, which does like movie brackets, kind of similar to what I did with Jeremy. For that one, we did the MCU at the time. So just kind of broke down my top 3 Well, we did like a whole bracket of all the MCU movies to narrow it down to like my favorite 3 or whatever it was. And then the actually very first podcast I was a guest on hasn't come out yet, and I'm not sure if it is going to because the project might be dead in the water. I was a guest on something that a comedian, her name is C.A. Canubal. She was doing a podcast series on like mental health, and I saw it in a podcast guest group on Facebook or something. And so I was just on there talking about like my personal experiences with mental illness and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it was supposed to be like a whole podcast about that. I think it might be dead in the water at this point. I don't think she's doing podcasting anymore, which is unfortunate because, you know, it's kind of an important issue with me, like mental health. But I don't know. Hopefully that will see the light of day someday in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, though, that's all the podcasts I've been on this year. Like I said, I didn't realize how many it was until I like sat down and looked at this, and holy shit, I've been really lucky to like keep in contact with most of these people. And I'm hoping to have more guests this year, and hopefully we can get maybe even a majority of these people on the show. I think that'd be great. There's not anybody here that I wouldn't like to, you know, have a conversation with about something. And speaking of having guests on the show, in 2024, I want to do like not a short. It's just going to be a side series, sort of, on Bucket of Chum. So, you know, on weeks where I want to have a guest and not just a regular episode per se, I'm going to have a series called Rotten Chum. So, Rotten Chum is me giving a movie or telling somebody to watch a movie, whether it be a fellow podcaster or some other guest, that is just absolutely dog shit. Like just what, like the worst shark movies that I have watched for the podcast, or movies that I think other people might really not like. And so I'm going to make them watch that movie, and then we're going to talk about it, rip it apart, and then maybe see if we're still friends by the end of the episode. So yeah, you guys look forward to that one in 2024. I don't know exactly when that's going to happen, but it is going to happen. There's a few people I have lined up already. Like I said, Joshua from Super Scary Podcast. I definitely want to have him on there. And our boys from the Evil Deaths podcast, they've been super supportive of me throughout this entire time. And their podcast is hilarious. Those guys are funny. So I definitely highly recommend checking them out. But yeah, we're going to have them on the show too. And they've had Nate from Give Me Back My Action and Horror Movies podcast. I haven't actually been on their podcast or talked to them a whole lot, but after listening to a few of their episodes and then listening to them on the Evil Deaths podcast, I'm like, yeah, I would like to hook up with these guys. So, and you've probably heard the trailer in a couple of the episodes too. I'm pretty sure I've thrown it in there once or twice. So yeah, 2024 is going to shape up to be a pretty decent year, I think. For January, I'm going to assume that by the time this episode comes out, I will have already announced it. But January is going to be like another themed month, and then it'll be the last one for a little while. But it's gonna be sequels. So it's the 1 year anniversary, and I'll let you try to figure out what movie I'm going to be doing first. Okay, it's all sequels, and it's like the 1 year anniversary of Bucket of Chum. Okay, so we're gonna do that. And then in February, we'll go back to like regular episodes, or maybe even the first episode of Rotten Chum. I don't know yet. And then, yeah, I definitely have more plans for themed months, I should say. So if you enjoyed like Spooky Sharktober, Retro November, or Piranha December, yeah, you can look forward to more of that kind of stuff. I'm going to be doing more of that. I have some ideas. So yeah, you guys can look forward to that. But back in coming February, I might take like a 1 or 2 week break in February, just to catch up on episodes and whatnot. Because I haven't gone like every week this year, but I haven't really missed that much. So in the main feed, we have 44 main episodes, and then 4, including this episode, bonus episodes, and then 5 Patreon episodes, plus the 11 or 12 other podcasts that I've been on this year. So it's been going pretty hard. So yeah, I might just take like a week or 2 in February. It's kind of the like shorter and dead month anyways, but I don't know. We'll see. I haven't fully decided that yet. I haven't planned quite that far ahead yet. Yeah, what else has happened this year? Oh, almost lost the podcast because of a podcast provider trying to get money from me because they said I signed up for a service even though I canceled my free trial, blah blah blah. Yeah, that was just frustrating, but I mean, it's over with and it's fine. The only thing I didn't enjoy about that experience was, one, I lost all of my analytics. So like how many episodes or how many plays each episode had, it was basically like starting at zero, like towards the end of the year. So that was kind of disheartening. I know I'm somewhere around 2,000, maybe 2,500 downloads, maybe somewhere around there. Again, without having those original numbers to look at, it's hard to say. But, and I mean, hey, I'm pretty happy with all that. I'm very happy with how this started off. And, you know, I realize some of the episodes are rough, but I feel like they're getting better as time goes on. And there's definitely plans for improvements. And there's also plans for other stuff for Bucket of Chum. There's going to be YouTube videos for sure, probably Patreon videos as well. But I'll probably start doing probably more short form reviews on YouTube. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be episodes I've done on the podcast already or not. Again, haven't fully decided yet, but it's going to be a little bit different than just the audio podcast. It's not just going to be videos of the audio podcast, but that is on YouTube as well. So, you know, be sure to hit that follow and subscribe button for when videos do eventually start popping up. Yeah, that was 2023. I've watched so many interesting movies this year. But definitely also some surprise favorites like Ghost Shark, Robo Shark. I never thought that I would actually find movies that like I enjoyed as much as I enjoyed those ones. I'm thinking maybe I can even revisit those movies somehow in some capacity. Like maybe I could do those for the YouTube channel. I'm not sure, but yeah, as I said, I just wanted to do a quick and casual episode, just a quick year in review. As I said, it's been quite the year. I'm hoping 2024 is just going to be even better. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you listening. If you're still listening to the end of this episode, thank you. Thank you so much for supporting the show, whether you're on Patreon, whether you just listen on your favorite podcasting app, whether you just like my stuff on Instagram and share, whatever it is you do. Thank you so much. I really hope you guys have enjoyed your holidays, and let's keep going in 2024, and let's dive in.